You know, this may appear like we're a little crowded up here, but here in Unity we call it hugging room. As I was listening to that beautiful meditation lyric, I was reminded that you can have the highest IQ on the planet, you can be God's gift to Mensa, and if you don't have love in your heart, you're educated beyond your intelligence. When you think about it.
Yep.
Love truly is the key. That is the power of the Christ. Thank you for that beautiful meditation music. In August of 1938, Bob May, a copywriter from Montgomery Ward, wrote a Christmas story for his daughter to cheer her up. She was concerned about what was going on over in Poland. She had some friends over there. And this is 1938. And when he shared the story at his Christmas party, everyone there said that he should publish it. And that's just what he did. And it was called Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. May's first choice for the reindeer's name, though, was Rollo. And then he was told that it was just a little bit too carefree. So then he picked Reginald. And everyone thought that seemed just a little bit too royal. In his original Rudolph story, though, Rudy was not singled out by Santa because of his red nose. Also in the original story, Rudolph did not stay with the other reindeer at the North Pole. He lived as an ordinary reindeer in an ordinary household in an ordinary neighborhood that had ordinary parents. When Christmas Eve turned foggy that year, Santa was worried that he wouldn't be able to deliver all the gifts that he had to deliver. And Rudy, of course, saved Christmas by leading the I Am sleigh team, the inspired action sleigh team, by the light of his nose. The 8 reindeer that Santa Claus used that night first appeared in American literature in 1823. They were featured in the famous poem, "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," by Clement Clarke Moore. Prior to Moore's poem, Santa's sleigh was pulled by only one anonymous reindeer. Apparently, Moore didn't know much about the high-altitude circumnavigation, expecting one reindeer to make that trip. As we mentioned several weeks ago, Rudolph was sung by cowboy Gene Autry. His song sold more, by now, has sold more than 14 million copies, second only to Bing Crosby's White Christmas, the holidays. Now, why is this song loved so much? What is it about it that captures our imagination? What makes it resonate so deeply with us and people across the world? I have a thought about that, and I think that the answer to those questions we might just find in a metaphysical perspective of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Some of you may be thinking, a metaphysical perspective? Come on this simple song? It's just a children's song. Well, you know, we found that simple stories like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, or Cinderella, or Frosty the Snowman, or The Little Train That Could, or fairy tales or nursery rhymes are perfect because they have profound metaphysical meanings if you look under the cover between the words. Stories like these capture our imagination, of course. They resonate with something deep within us. And that's what makes them so powerful. And that's what makes them so well loved all across the world. As I thought about taking a metaphysical leap and preparing this message for you this morning, I remembered a story about a Hindu mystic who was on a spiritual pilgrimage. He was watching a group of street performers one day, and he thought, these street performers are just what the name implies on the surface. But beneath their performance is a deeper spiritual meaning to what they do if you have eyes to see and ears to hear. Their street magic is but a shadow of something deeper. So inspired by the insight of this Hindu mystic, here's my metaphysical interpret of Rudy, the red-nosed reindeer and his characters. The 8 reindeer, and by the way, we have a handout for you guys at the end of the service. What I'm about to say, you don't have to worry about taking notes because it's all on here. The 8 reindeer, in addition to Rudolph, represent qualities within us, characteristics, traits. For example, Dasher represents trust and expectation. Dasher represents balance and stability. Prancer, who's Dancer's twin, represents inner strength. And what's interesting about the twin piece here is that twins metaphysically stand for our etheric double or our astral body. They decided to put twins in here for their relationship, so I thought, why not take some liberties and talk a little bit about twins and what they mean metaphysically. Vixen denotes fullness of life. Comet symbolizes speed and endurance. Cupid represents love and desire. Donner represents thunder and power. And finally, Blitzen symbolizes zeal and enthusiasm. Now, the reindeer have qualities similar to the qualities, if you listen carefully, to the same qualities that we assign to the 12 powers in unity, when you think about it. We could also make the case that they stand for the Eightfold Path in Buddhism. 8 reindeer, 8 qualities. And if we go deeper, they are also qualities that characterize the 7 major chakras plus 1, and that one is called the chakra of the soul, making 8. And these chakras, of course, are the etheric vortexes that travel up and down our spinal column. And when they flower, when they blossom, they help lead to our enlightenment. There are also 8 gods in the Vedas. There are also 8 Taoist immortals. And the mandalas that we create occasionally are based on an 8 by 8 symbolism. And so the number 8 is very significant here for the number of reindeer. Rudolph stands for our awakened human nature, which comprehends that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And his nickname, not just the nickname that I gave him, but the nickname that I think one of the popular songs today calls him Rudy. You probably heard it. It's more significant than you might think because Rudy means red. And Adam, who is the archetype of humankind, was made from red clay. Santa is our I am nature. The sleigh stands for our positive, giving state of consciousness, which is our vehicle for unlimited prosperity and abundance. The lighted nose that Carol was wearing Friday night. The lighted nose represents illumined thoughts and higher intuitive instincts, metaphysically. It stands for clairaudience, which means clear smelling, which means sniffing out the truth, if you will. It also means psychic perception. The night sky signified the unawareness of our innate divinity. So Santa gave Rudolph a choice. He invited Rudolph to lead his sleigh that night. Rudolph could have refused, of course, and we would have had quite a different story today. Perhaps we would be singing Rudy the Red-Faced Reindeer, because the Rudolph in us would have missed the point to birth the awareness of our Christ nature that night. The Rudolph of us could not have kept his light hidden under the bushel basket because he listened to that still, small voice that says, "Let your light shine." The whole midnight ride that night symbolizes moving from It is a great joy to ministers who are pushing the edge of spiritual consciousness to partner with 2 extraordinary musicians, songwriters, lyricists, who write such spectacular. Out in the general public, the world would be a much better place, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful, thank you. Someone only has to say, ho, ho, ho! And you know instantly who they were referring to. Santa Claus, Old Saint Nick, Kris Kringle, Sinterklaas are all names that we give to a legendary figure who was white-haired, red-suited bringer of Christmas gifts. The origins and folklore of an altruistic gift giver take us back a little over 1,700 years. The legend was officially born in the year 270 in the person of St. Nicholas, the Bishop of Myra, which is now a seacoast city in modern-day Turkey. So St. Nick was a real person. The bishop spent his life helping the poor and the needy, and he loved children and went often out at night disguised in a hooded cloak to leave food and clothing and money for the children and their families. But he was my kind of guy. He was a rowdy bishop. And a sense of humor. And he also had, something I don't have, is an arrest record. This is true. St. Nick had an arrest record. His arrest, though, came in conjunction with his collaring men who were abusing their wives and their children. And he was proud of it. In the year 800, the Vikings believed their main god, Odin, came to earth in a hooded cloak and gave food and clothing to the poor as well. Odin had a long white beard and long white hair. In 825, the first biography of St. Nicholas appeared listing all of his miracles. By 1300, a white beard and white hair were the accepted version of St. Nick's persona. St. Nicholas flew through the air, according to legend, on an 8-legged white horse called Sleipnir. Now, Sleipnir is the 8-legged gray horse of Odin, the Norse god, who rode that horse on his nightly visits. In 1810, the New York Historical Society held the first citywide St. Nicholas celebration and marked the occasion by revealing for the first time the first portrait of St. Nicholas in America. In 1861, Abraham Lincoln asked Thomas Nast, remember him, to draw a wide variety of Santas, and Nast became known as the Santa Claus artist in America. Nast added details such as Santa's workshop at the North Pole and Santa's list of who's been naughty and who's been nice. In the 1870s, Santa began to appear in department stores all across America, and in 1897, Francis Church, editor of the New York Sun, wrote an editorial in response to a letter he had gotten from 8-year-old Virginia Hanlon. She had written a newspaper asking whether there really was a Santa Claus. And his answer to her was, "Yes, Virginia,
there is a Santa Claus."
In 1931, Hanlon Sundblom, an illustrator for Coca-Cola, drew a human-sized Old Saint Nick for Coca-Cola commercials. First time that had been done. Before his rendering, believe this or not, Santa was elf-sized. Never full-sized. Isn't that incredible? According to a 2013 study, there are just a little over 3 billion children in the world. However, because Santa doesn't make nocturnal visits to Muslim, Hindu, Jewish, and Buddhist children, that reduces his workload to only 15% of the world's children's population. So he's able to make that visit all in one night. Now, what's interesting is, as you've heard, St. Nicholas and even the god Odin not expecting anything in return, gave gifts to the needy and the children. Isn't it interesting that our default mechanism, if you will, for Santa Claus is to spend money and to reward retailers and not just simply give, as the original St. Nicholas did. His default strategy was simply to give, with no thought of anything in return. True Christmas spirit. Well, Christmas has become big business, as you know. Retailers have not been selling the giving spirit. You've got to understand that. They sell the spending spirit to their benefit. And the more you spend, the better, according to our retailers. In his classic Unity book, Spiritual Economics, Eric Butterworth said this, and I quote, "In our spiritual quest, we seek oneness with divine flow. We can never achieve this oneness, though, until giving becomes the main focus of our lives. And when we discover the power of giving, we become unblushingly, Butterworth's term, incurable givers." That's what the real St. Nicholas was all about. Unselfish, spirit-filled giving, according to positive psychologists, are people who routinely practice a consciousness of giving to others, a consciousness of generosity. These people are more positive and optimistic, are more helpful and generous, compassionate, more forgiving, and tend to pay it forward as a general practice. A giving consciousness seems to be an RX for the whole body when you think about it. And it's also the royal road to connecting with what neuroscientists call our deeper self, and what philosophers call our true self, and what psychologists call our authentic self, and what Cher and I refer to as our higher self, our Christ self, our super self, the extraordinary us. Did you know that the modern English word generosity is derived from the Latin word generosus, which means of noble birth? Isn't that interesting? And what's really interesting is the noble part of us is our higher self, our giving nature, our divine nature, our Christ nature. We can even stress the analogy to say that a giving spirit is what the true Santa Claus is all about. And metaphysically, the selfless giving, highly altruistic, paying it forward, down to earth Santa Claus of us stands for our I am nature, God's presence within us. It is giving personified, quite simply. It means that we have the air power, H-E-I-R, air power, to draw anything we want from the field of universal substance and to use it by right of consciousness to improve our lives and the lives of others. And you won't have to worry about what you manifest because you are operating from your higher self. Everything you think, feel, say, and do are the products of that higher consciousness. I think Jesus would tell the 21st century versions of the real St. Nick the same thing he told the rich young man in Matthew 19:16. I'm going to paraphrase, of course. He would say, "Look, Santa, a little bit of bling is okay. But don't forget to help people focus on being the best Christ they can be. Christmas is about giving birth to the Christ within you." And he might even say, "And for heaven's sake, listen to Bill's wife, Reverend Cher."
Assuming Bill's wife can get through this. I don't know where that came from. Thank you for that helped. So, we all know that the preferred way of talking with Santa and letting Santa know what you want is...
sit on his lap.
Oh, that is one way, sitting on his lap. moviedom, and we love movies, as you can tell. But from a Christmas movie, one of my favorite scenes comes from the original Miracle on 34th Street. And if you have not seen that movie, I'm going to ruin the ending for you right now, but go home and watch it. It is incredible. But there's one scene near the end where they're in a courtroom, and clerks from the Postal Service come rolling in with these huge bags of letters to Santa Claus and dump them on the judge's desk up front. It is an incredibly powerful scene, and those letters to Santa Claus literally save Saint Nick. So we're thinking, if Jesus wanted to talk to Santa Claus, maybe he would write a letter. So we got permission from the Postal Service to open this mail. And we found an old letter from Jesus to Santa Claus. You want to hear what he said? This is really cool. He says, "Dear Santa, I want to start by giving something to you." Isn't that just like Jesus? That is Christ consciousness. We start by giving. He said, "I want to give you an important piece of advice. Please, remember who you really are." You know, you and I are kindred spirits. We have a lot in common. We both stand for unconditional giving. And our images have been misinterpreted and confused over the years. Think about it. You and I, we've both been used to create guilt trips, which was never our intention. And people seem to think we have nothing better to do than to sit around and keep lists of naughty and nice behavior, as if that were the issue. So Santa, it's important for you to keep your focus and continue to do what it is you're here to do. Spread the spirit of joy and unconditional giving to the world. Well, he's written something in here. And man, you got to cut down on all those cookie and milk trends. Oh, but he's got more. He says, now on to my next issue. It seems like everyone writes Christmas lists to you of things they want to receive. So here is my Christmas list. I would like for the world to embrace your true spirit of unconditional giving. It would make me so happy if people everywhere would just get that message. I tried. I talked about it all the time, but people didn't get it. I mean, I thought I had it nailed when I said, give and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together and running over. It will be poured into your lap. For the measure you use, it will be measured to you. But they still didn't get it. So if I had one thing on my wish list for you, Santa, it would be this. I wish people would understand the power of giving and put it into practice. They would be amazed at the results. So Santa, you can help with this message if you remember who you really are. Help me out, buddy. Love and blessings, Jesus. What a letter. And I'm thinking, you know, we here today, we can help achieve that goal. We can help make those wishes come true if we begin to embrace unconditional giving as part of who we are. So we were thinking about it and we thought, well, what would we be doing? How would that look? Because it's one thing to say it, but that's kind of vague. We want to be more specific. So 3 ways we thought of. One is giving of your time. Would you agree time is one of the most precious commodities we have? And it goes so fast. I mean, I can't believe we have 24 hours in every day, but it somehow just doesn't feel like it. And so this season, we want to encourage you to give the gift of time. First of all, to yourself. Think about that. Self-care. More than ever during this busy season, give yourself that gift of a little self-care. Time for meditation. Time to be in the silence. Time to get centered. Do that for you. And then give the gift of time to others by being fully present. When you are with anybody, whether it's your family and friends, whether it's at a party, whether it's a family get-together, whether it's in a store where you're giving money to a clerk, it's in a restaurant where you're paying your bill or talking to your waitstaff, whoever you are with, in that moment, give the gift of time, of being fully present. You will get so much back from the time that you give. How many of you have had somebody say to you, you know, I don't need a present, your presence is all I would like to have. It is a gift. Give the gift of time. Secondly, give the gift of your talents. Now, I know we talked about this last week in detail when we talked about good old Rudolph, but you know, you think Rudolph, Santa, they kind of go together. So we're going to talk about talents one more time because we all have uniqueness. And we may not be aware of exactly when our unique talents might be called into action. So you've always got to be on the lookout of how you can use them. I want to give you an example. Question. What do dolphins, pool plastic, the Guinness Book of World Records, and a herdsman from Inner Mongolia have to do with what I'm talking about right now? Does that sound like a cool mix? Let me start with the herdsman from Inner Mongolia. His name is Bao Chi-soon. And Bao Chi-soon at one point was identified by the Guinness Book of World Records, that's where that comes in, as the world's tallest man. Now he no longer holds that title, but that's another whole story. He, at this point, was the world's largest man. He had something very unique, and I want to illustrate his uniqueness. His arm length from like shoulder to his fingers, was 47.1 inches. Well, I am going to show you, just because I don't think you realize how long that is.
Almost 4 feet.
That's how long his arm is. Now, I was going to say I'd compare it to mine, but I've been informed by Bill and Renee that you can't use me as a judge because I'm so short. But even the tallest of you, I mean, look how long that is. That's a long arm. And he never realized that this was going to be a unique gift. However, I'm going to try to do this without hurting myself. Okay, so what made him so powerful then? Here's what was happening. This happened in December, of all things, in 2006. There were some dolphins who had gotten very seriously ill because they had been chewing on the edge of the pool of their aquarium. And the little pieces from the edge of the pool got into their stomachs, and they wouldn't eat. They were getting depressed. They were really quite ill. And as the vets tried to work with them, none of their instruments would go deep enough into their stomach without hurting them because of the way dolphins were made. And then they thought of Bao Chi-soon. And he was invited to come participate. And with his arm, which was 47 point so many inches, he was able to literally, as they held the dolphin's head back and opened the mouth, he could reach in and literally grab the pieces of the pool and bring it back out. He saved their lives, and the dolphins went on to be very happy creatures. We never know when we have gifts that may not even, we take for granted because it's part of who we are, but to somebody it's a unique gift. So we invite you this season, begin to ask yourself, what are my gifts? And how can I give of my talents? What can I do that would truly bring joy and love to other people? Give unconditionally of your talents. So we've got giving of our time, giving of our talents, and giving of our treasures. Now, I'm saying this one, but I want to be sure you know that the important thing is not how much money you have. It's what you choose to do with what you have and what kind of consciousness you bring to how you use your treasures. This is the key. Let me give you an example. Bill and I were having a dinner at the Cracker Barrel in Nevin with some friends. And we were having a delightful time. The waitress was incredible. She was going out of her way to help us feel comfortable. She was happy. She was cheerful. She was professional. She really just went above and beyond. So Bill and I felt led to give her an extra large tip because we like to reward good service when we get it. Well, she was so excited, and of course you could understand that, but what she said was what got to us. She said, "This is great. Thank you so much because I am using my tips this week to take angels off the angel tree and buy gifts for children." And she pointed, and sure enough, there was a big angel tree in the store, in the restaurant. And she opened her order book, and there were 4 angels already in there. But she looked at us and said, "With your gift, thank you. Thanks to you, I can now get several more angels off the tree." You talk about feeling humbled. We were humble. And she was such a beautiful example of how you can give of your treasures. So think about yourself. What are you doing with your time, your talents, and your treasures? On this Sunday, right before Christmas, it is the perfect time to begin to say, I want to give unconditionally. I want to adopt that spirit that Santa Claus and Jesus were talking about. I want to unconditionally give. And I want to paraphrase that editor of that New York Journal that Bill was talking about. And we want to say to you, yes, UIG family, visitors, and friends, there is a Santa Claus. That Santa Claus lives in each of us as we embrace unconditional giving. And as we take that message, do you remember the message? 5 words that Jesus told Santa for his advice. And it is the unity message wrapped up in 5 words. Remember who you really are. You are God expressing. And as you adopt that spirit of unconditional giving and remember who you really are, you will truly have the best Christmas and the best New Year you have ever experienced as you walk the spiritual path